Let me read through this question. So this is question 3. A runner in a 100-meter race accelerates uniformly from rest, reaching a top speed at 14.7 meters per second after 6 seconds. He then runs at constant speed for the remainder of the race. What is his rate of acceleration during the initial phase of the race? How far did he travel in the first phase of the race? What was his time in the race? What was his average acceleration over the entire race? What was his average speed over the entire race? Okay, so I have drawn a diagram in the slide. So can you see that the whole distance is 100 meters? And then, now this is not to scale. And can you see that he was accelerating for 6 seconds? So what does from rest mean? So from rest, it means that he is starting, meaning that he wasn't moving in the beginning. So if it's from rest, it means that his speed is zero. Zero. From rest means from zero. And then he reaches a top speed of 14.7 meters per second. So after 6 seconds, he has reached a speed from 0 to 14.7 meters per second. So he would have traveled a certain distance. Now, obviously, there will be a distance remaining. So he will still have to travel 14.7 meters per second for the remainder of the race, but you don't know how far he has left. All right, so what is his rate of acceleration during the initial phase of the race? Okay, so the equation for acceleration is change in speed divided by time. So what is change in speed? Now, for change in speed, you've got to take away two numbers. Now, the final speed is in the question because he has reached a constant speed of that number in the question. So that number is in the question, and you've got to take away his initial speed, his speed in the beginning. So what was his speed in the beginning? Well, it was from rest. So it is 14.7 take away 0 and divided by the time. Well, for the first part of the race, it took him 6 seconds. So what is the time? Okay, so the acceleration is equal to 14.7 take away 0 divided by time taken. So work out the acceleration in a calculator. It should be 14.7 take away 0 divided by 6. How far did he travel in the first phase of the race? Now, you can use this equation. S is equal to half brackets U plus V divided times T. So work out you can think of U plus V divided by 2 as the average speed of the race. So you know that he started at 0, he ends at 14.7. So he started at 0 and then he ends at 14.7. Work out the average speed. So what he did, so what you have to do, you just add those two numbers together, divide by 2, and then you times by the time taken. So that is his distance. Because he's accelerating, his speed changes. So you can work out the average speed and then times it by the time taken, which is 6. So that is for part B. How far did he travel in the first phase of the race? So work out the average speed and then times it by 6. That will give you the distance of the first phase of the race. Now, what was his time in the race? Well, you know that it took him 6 seconds for the first part. And then for the second part, for the second part, he's not accelerating. For the second part, he is traveling at a constant speed. So, you've worked out S, didn't you? So you've worked out S. You've worked out how far he's traveled in the first phase. Now, you know the whole distance is 100 meters. So you do 100 meters, take away S. Now, this S you've worked out. So work out 100, take away S. That's his remainder of the distance that he needs to run. And you know that he's running at a constant speed of 14.7. So the time taken is distance divided by 14.7. So the distance in this case is 100 take away S divided by 14.7. So that is the time he took when he's moving at a constant speed. But don't forget he took 6 seconds at the beginning, the first part of the race. So whatever time he was traveling at a constant speed, you need to add 6 to your answer. Okay, the next bit. What was his average acceleration over the entire race? So for the average acceleration, you need to work out the change in speed. Now, the change in speed is going to be 14.7 because that's his final speed. And what's his initial speed? His initial speed is 0 because that's from rest. And what's the total time taken? Well, the total time taken, the total time taken is the answer for this part. The answer is when you added 6 to it. So that was the answer to this. This is the answer for part C. So um, for this question, you do 14.7 divided by your answer in part C, and that will give you your average acceleration. Now, what about his average speed? Now, average speed is the total distance traveled divided by total time taken. Now, you know what's the distance of the race? The distance of the race is given in a question, and then you divide that by the time taken for the race. So, because um, you're given the distance of the race, that's in the question, and then your answer from part C, you divide that. So uh, total distance is, I'm not going to say the number, but you should know what it is. The total distance is that number, and then you divide by the total time taken, which is your answer in part C.